It's Wednesday, October 4. In the headlines, $96 million for Dengue Mitigation Program, 13% decrease in major crimes. In business news, Trinbagonian financier Angus Young, CEO of NCB Capital Markets Limited. Regionally, Barbados examines recommended human rights. Internationally, U.S. House Speaker McCarthy removed from role in unprecedented vote. And in sports, J. Ray and Nephew's female fight night. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has allocated approximately $96 million for the dengue mitigation works through the Ministry of Local Government and the municipal corporations. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, shared some details during a post-cabinet press brief on Wednesday.
It's important because our municipal authorities, first of all, are part of the public health response at the parish level. Secondly, they have an infrastructure through councillors, elected representatives, as well as the administrative representative, who are able to provide micro-management support in communities. So it's very important because, as I said, that's where the breeding sites are.
The National Works Agency has been allocated $160 million through the National Health Fund to coordinate the cleaning of major drains in high-risk communities.
The Works Agency will take on the larger projects, which would be the major drains. So communities like in St. Catherine, say Portmore, or there are other low-lying areas in Clarendon, in Westmoreland, where you have streams running stagnant water that is clean enough to breed the mosquitoes. They don't breed in all types of water. They're more into cleaner water, pools of water. Then where there are larger catchment areas, then the NWA will go in with the backhoe and the other things to provide that kind of support.
As of Friday, September 29, number of presumed suspected and confirmed cases stood at 1,117, up from 1,060 previously reported. Some 160 were confirmed dengue cases, of which 158 were serotype 2, the dominant strain. Here's what the Chief Medical Officer in the ministry, Jacqueline Bessesi-McKenzie, had to say about that data.
Of course, persons who have respiratory illnesses like asthma or COPD, then they should take the necessary precautions. They don't want to be in an environment where there is spray applied, either being applied now or having applied until the place is properly sprayed out. But you really have a mosquito problem and you really want to do something, so you can take your precautionary medications, your inhalers, to prevent any kind of exacerbation of your illness.
Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says the increased production and trade of synthetic drugs is an issue of concern. The matter was discussed at the recently held International Drug Enforcement Conference held at Montego Bay Convention Center in St. James. He spoke about it at a JCF press brief on Tuesday.
A major topic of discussion at IDEC 37 was the escalating threat of synthetic, lab-manufactured drugs and the rise in the market for precursor chemicals, which are directly fueling the opioid crisis. These man-made drugs often are more potent and lethal than their natural counterparts and represent a new frontier in the drug trade.
He says while there is no evidence of high production of these drugs in Jamaica, the authorities remain vigilant. Meanwhile, the commissioner noted the incident at Ocheria's primary school in St. Anne, where students were sold ganja-infused sweets in the school's vicinity. 60 students were treated at hospital due to consumption of the sweets.
We believe that a Devon Holness of Mansfield Heights, Ocheria's, may be able to assist in our investigations. So we are asking him to contact the St. Anne Police as soon as possible.
Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, addressed the incident at this week's post-cabinet press brief. He says the students suffered from dehydration and 5 others were hospitalized.
There are lingering impacts that would need to be assessed on the life of a child who has been traumatized in this manner, and public health is sensitive to that, working with the National Council on Drug Abuse and with the institution through the principal and the Ministry of Education through the minister.
He says work is being done on a policy level.
I really want to highlight the case to suggest why we have to be vigilant, why we have to, as adults, be extra vigilant around the protection of our children, even in the safe space of a school environment, and why it is necessary for us to have policies and enforcement of policies around giving them that added protection within that safe space. The government is very seized with that. It is something that we have discussed at the level of cabinet.
There has been a 13% reduction in major crimes since the start of 2023. That's the word from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF. Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson, who made the disclosure during a JCF's virtual quarterly press brief on Tuesday, said the reduction covers a period between January 1 and September 30.
Murders are down 12%, which translates to 141 less persons killed. Shooting incidents down 9%, rape down 18%, and robberies down 17%.
Meanwhile, Major General Anderson said more than 500 illegal weapons have so far been recovered this year.
So illegal guns continue to be the weapon of choice for the criminals. 84% of murders are still by the use of firearms.
He said the JCF will continue to partner with critical stakeholders in the fight against crime.
We remain resolute in our drive to save as many lives as possible, to continue our efforts against gangs and violent criminal organizations, and end the year with reductions in all major crimes.
The region is being warned of a possibility of strong tropical cyclone activities. The Barbados-based Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum says North Atlantic temperatures should remain well above average, continuing to fuel this weather phenomena. Tropical cyclones, also known as hurricanes, are intense circular storms that originate over warm tropical oceans and have maximum sustained wind speeds exceeding 119 kilometers per hour and heavy rains. In its latest Caribbean Climate Outlook on Monday, the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum said that for the period October to December this year, there will be amplified heat stress through October with higher temperatures, humidity, and heat wave frequency. It said that this will fuel a record-breaking Caribbean heat season. The agency said that there will also be increased showers intensity during the peak of the wet season, leading to a high potential for flooding and cascading hazards. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
More changes are coming to the NCB Group as Angus P. Young has been appointed Chief Executive Officer of NCB Capital Markets Limited. This comes after last week's announcement that Stephen Gooden, who previously held the post, was stepping aside. Prior to joining the NCB Group, Angus served as Chief Executive Officer of NCB Merchant Market in Trinidad and Tobago and has a wealth of experience and expertise in the financial industry. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, October 3, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.83. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.31. The pound sterling traded for $189.14 and the euro sold for $161.74. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by over 791 points. The junior market index declined by over 9 points. The combined market index declined by over 822 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by over 825 shares. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 108 stocks, of which 49 advanced, 48 declined, and 11 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Berita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and the Caribbean Cement Company Limited. Trading firm were Derrimont Trading Company Limited, GUS Corporation Limited Ordinary Shares, and JMMB Group 7.25% CR Preference Shares. The overall volume leaders were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 4 million units, Dollar Financial Services Limited, and One Great Studio Company Limited with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, the Mutual Market Fund did not record any activity. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, 0 securities traded. In regional business, Trinidad and Tobago's Minister of Finance, Colm Imbert, says one of the main objectives of the 2024 budget presentation is to help the people at the lowest end, and noted the increase in the minimum wage for business owners.
Speaking at a post-budget forum hosted by the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, Minister Imbert noted the increase in the minimum wage is being welcomed by the business sector.
We need to be careful about this, and I'm so happy to hear that the rate that we chose, that $3 increase, which is a significant increase, 17%, and when we did the maths, some minimum wage workers will get as much as $500 extra per month. Some might get $900, security guards and so on. And it's tax-free because they're below the threshold in terms of the tax rate.
In international business, Wall Street's major indexes ended at their lowest since June 1, as data showed U.S. job openings unexpectedly increased in August, fueling worries about a tight labor market.
The Dow shed about 1.3%, the S&P 500 dropped nearly 1.4%, while the Nasdaq plummeted almost 1.9%. Data showed U.S. job openings unexpectedly increased in August, fueling worries about a tight labor market ahead of Friday's key monthly jobs report.
Tough day for the markets across the board.
Mel Casey is Senior Portfolio Manager at FBB Capital Partners.
Markets continue to have difficulty trying to predict the direction and the change in rates going forward. Is the Fed done? Is inflation behind us? Or are we still deep in the trenches on this fight?
Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic said there is no urgency for the central bank to raise its policy rate again, but it will likely be, quote, a long time before rate cuts are appropriate. Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester said she is open to raising rates again, potentially at the bank's next meeting. In company news, shares of Amazon and Microsoft dropped more than 3.5% and 2.5% respectively, after Reuters reported British media regulator Ofcom will push for an antitrust investigation into the company's dominance of the UK cloud computing market. With third-quarter earnings season kicking in, investors are hoping results could provide some positive news again for the market.
In market data for oil, oil fell as pledges by Saudi Arabia and Russia to continue crude output cuts to the end of 2023 were offset by demand fears stemming from macroeconomic headwinds. Brent crude oil futures were down $1.51 to $89.41 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude fell $1.59 to $87.64. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denida Rodney.
In regional news, Barbados says it has examined all of the recommendations put forward about its human rights record during the latest United Nations Universal Periodic Review conducted in May. Permanent representative to the UN, Matthew Wilson, revealed during the 33rd meeting of the 54th session of the Human Rights Council that out of the 224 recommendations, the majority enjoyed the support of Barbados.
129 enjoyed the support of Barbados and 86 were noted. 3 were supported and fully implemented, and 9 were supported and noted. This will be included in more granular form in the addendum, which is being finalized for circulation. First, I'm pleased to highlight which recommendations have been fully implemented. The first, we have amended the national laws to ensure women confer nationality on their children in all circumstances. 2, we have amended the relevant laws to ensure all parents can confer nationality on their children. And 3, we have repealed or amended all discriminatory provisions in legislation, including by providing equal rights in conferring nationality to an adopted child or foreign spouse, which is why one of the first steps to be taken will be to recommend the establishment of a national human rights institution. In response to the 14 recommendations to ratify the Convention Against Torture, we have supported this. We are already in touch with various actors to support us in getting this underway. We take note of the recommendation around this optional protocol. We also support the recommendation to consolidate the legal framework on the protection of migrants by ratifying the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of All Migrant Workers and members of their families. You may recall that Barbados is the newest member of the IOM, and we will be working with them on this.
Food security, digital wallets, and financial inclusion all featured in the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce's annual post-budget meeting. On Monday, Finance Minister Colm Imbert presented a $1 billion fiscal package. Tyrion Brown Campbell has that story.
2023-24 budget seemed to have a varied impact on business stakeholders. This was evident as the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce reviewed the budget presented by Minister of Finance Colm Imbert in Parliament on Monday. During his contribution to the forum, TNT International Financial Center Chief Executive Officer John Outridge noted this is still a cash society, citing a recent study conducted by the center.
And the challenge is 65% of retail payments are still done in cash in Trinidad and Tobago. When we look at the central bank stability report, I would say year on year, the cash usage in terms of cash over withdrawals from ATMs is increasing at about $10 billion every year.
Another presenter questioned whether Finance Minister Imbert's provision for 3 new licenses for companies to provide e-wallets in the budget is a sound decision.
We're all saying we all need wallets. Wallets are the solution, but I'm not too sure that we've really analyzed what is root cause. Because you would see we do have these things available and adoption is low. So if adoption is low, is adding more really the solution?
And founder and proprietor of Immortal Beauty, Catherine Nils, made a point about financial inclusion for small and micro enterprises.
And what I saw small businesses saying was that 70-something% of us do not have business accounts because it is too hard. It is too difficult. The list of requirements, the administrative requirements, they are both...
During the $54 billion budget presentation, education, health, and national security sectors got the largest allocations. Tyrion Brown Campbell, TTT News.
Exactly 124 years ago, on October 3, 1899, an arbitral tribunal delivered its award determining the boundary between Venezuela and British Guyana. On Tuesday, Guyana's government celebrated the award, noting that it continues to adhere to and embrace the rules of international law. More from Newsroom Guyana.
Venezuela is Guyana's western neighbor on the continent of South America. For decades, the countries enjoyed cordial relations, but at the time of independence, Venezuela raised questions about the award that settled the border between the two countries, and Venezuela has over the ensuing decades even used force in its quest to claim about 2/3 of Guyana's landmass, and recently, the country's maritime space. What it claims is the entire Essequibo region and the exclusive economic zone offshore where prolific oil finds have been made. Exactly 124 years ago, the land boundary between the two countries was determined. The 1899 award by an arbitration panel determined the boundary, and that was accepted by Venezuela. On Tuesday, a statement from the government of Guyana noted that Guyana still accepts and celebrates the arbitral award as stipulated by the treaty. Further, the statement highlighted that for more than 6 decades after the 1899 award was delivered, Venezuela treated the award as a final settlement of the matter. It consistently recognized, affirmed, and relied upon the 1899 award as a full, perfect, and final determination of the boundary with then British Guyana. Between 1900 and 1905, Venezuela even participated in a joint demarcation of the boundary in strict adherence to the letter of the 1899 award. Venezuela proceeded to formally ratify the demarcated boundary in its domestic law and thereafter published official maps which depicted the boundary following the line described in the 1899 award. Things changed in 1962 when British Guyana was approaching its independence from Britain. The statement noted that Venezuela abandoned the rule of law in good faith and claimed the Essequibo territory. For decades since, Venezuela has intermittently revived its claim to the Essequibo region, eventually compelling Guyana to take the case to the International Court of Justice. The World Court already found that it has the jurisdiction to preside over the border controversy, and Guyana has submitted its memorial on the merits of its case. Guyana now awaits a judgment of the court. What Guyana is seeking is a final, binding judgment that the arbitral award of 1899 was full and final, and therefore the Essequibo region belongs to Guyana and not Venezuela. Reporting for the newsroom, Vishani Raghaber.
In international news, for the first time in United States history, the Speaker of the House of Representatives has been removed. Kevin McCarthy was targeted by a small group of hardline Republicans after he made a deal with Democrats to prevent a government shutdown over the weekend. Al Jazeera's Mike Hanna reports.
The resolution is adopted.
It was history in the making. The one and only time a motion to vacate was invoked was in 1910. And on that occasion, it failed. This time, it didn't.
The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
House Democrats joined with 8 Republican hardliners to strip McCarthy of his position. 216 voted in favor of removing him. 210 voted against. It was a culmination of a bitter and long-standing power struggle between McCarthy and members of a hard-right Republican faction that had tried to block his path to the speakership in January. And it was this vote that was the last straw for the Republican right.
The bill is passed, and with that,
McCarthy accepting the help of Democrats to pass a short-term funding bill to avoid a government shutdown. But the seeds were planted long before, in particular an agreement between President Biden and the then House Speaker on raising the country's debt limit.
I think the debt limit deal was a terrible deal, and that's one of the reasons. It really was the original sin of the McCarthy speakership, and it's one of the reasons I seek to vacate the chair now.
And after his victory, Gates made clear he'd been consulting with former President Donald Trump.
I would say that my conversations with the former president leave me with great confidence that I'm doing the right thing.
Before the vote, McCarthy had attempted to defend himself.
Look, I'm a conservative, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, one that gets things done. Look, I know we live in our government's designed to have compromise, but look, we're in the majority. You don't surrender. Do you work with the other side? Yeah, and that's what I've done.
North Carolina Representative Patrick McHenry was nominated by McCarthy as a Speaker pro tempore, or temporary Speaker, and he'll fill in until a new Speaker is elected. But given the divisions within the Republican Party, this may not be an easy process. And looming over everything is the fact that another deadline to fund the government comes in a matter of weeks. And it's a deadline that a House in chaos may not be able to meet. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Washington.
In sports, the first female bout in the Ray and Nephew Fight Night series takes place at the Ebony Vale Community Center in Spanish Town on Saturday. Both Shariki Moore and Shanika Gordon are anticipating a fierce and thrilling battle. PBCJ's news team was at the launch.
The other shows that we had first, they were excellent shows. And as we increase our presence, each one is better. So I'm throwing out the gauntlet to our boxers who will be participating in this third section of the Fight Night series, that you have to keep the momentum going. Now we have a couple of pro fights, and the idea there is to give our professionals a night when they get into the ring, they earn some money so that they can help with their training expenses. And then we have the amateurs. They have this aspiration to move to the different games.
Coming this Saturday, October 7th, I'll be putting on a show for you guys, as always. I won't disappoint. I'm expecting my opponent to put in the work as well, same as me, so
And Saturday night, I'm going to go and put in the work, and I know I'll do my best.
West Indies captain Hayley Matthews has consolidated her position as the #1 all-rounder in the ICC rankings with scores of 99 not out and a career best 132 against Australia.
She also moved to number 7 on the batting rankings, while her 4 wickets in 2 games took her to number 5 in the rankings for bowlers. Matthews, who is currently enjoying a run of 7 consecutive Player of the Match awards, has been in rich form. In her last 2 outings, she scored 231 runs off 138 balls that helped West Indies level the T20I series 1-1 with Australia. Matthews, who credits her leadership role as a factor in her strong performances, now has 480 ranking points, a personal best.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks so much for watching.